President of the Student Representative Council at the University of the Witwatersrand here in Johannesburg, Nombulelo Chiya, says financially excluded students are required to pay 50% of the outstanding fees. As registration is set to close on the 21st of this month, a group of students have now embarked on a hunger strike calling for all financially excluded students to be allowed to register. President of the Student Representative Council at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, Nombulelo Chiya, says financially excluded students are required to pay that extra 50%. For more on this, let's now welcome Feziwe Ndwayana, who is a representative of those unregistered students. Feziwe, we do appreciate your time with us today. Good afternoon. So firstly, give us the latest in your hunger strike efforts. Are they yielding any fruit at this particular stage? And maybe quite critically, please let us in on the actual scope of the grievances that are faced by these unregistered students.
Please excuse me, I'm a bit slow because we haven't eaten in 3 days. So even my mental capacity isn't up to speed. But we've been on this hunger strike for the 3rd day now, and there hasn't been any response from management on our part, but we remain resolute that we will not eat until all unregistered students are registered. Well, I mean, the grievances of the students are quite straightforward, that we can no longer afford these exorbitant fees that we are expected to pay. And further to that, we cannot cope or be expected to take out all this money that Wits expects us to pay. There's what we call the hardship fund here at Wits. It only pays 50,000 Rand. And after it has paid that 50,000 Rand, students are expected to raise the remaining portion. And we ask, how does the institution expect poor students that have already come forward and gone through the humiliating process of parading their poverty, how are they expected to actually raise more money to enable them to register? But further to that, our second crisis is the funding for postgraduate students. We've seen in the news, because Wits isn't speaking to us, we've seen in the news that they claim that there's money that has been raised for postgraduate students. But just last week alone, the doors were being shut on postgraduate students that were seeking assistance from Wits, from the research office rather. So we are resolute that we will not eat until all unregistered students are registered, regardless of their debt. And I think that covers every single student at the moment. Thank you.
First of all, I mean, we sympathize with your situation and also commend your efforts, which is now also putting you at a health risk pertaining to the fact that you haven't been able to eat for the 3rd day now. Are there any other organizations or student bodies or authorities that are actually assisting with your cause as registration is set to close this coming week?
Well, the Progressive Youth Alliance has been very supportive. They have been with us the entire time. But we also, when we started this journey, we actually started with a non-denominational prayer in which all the religious groups on campus came to support us. Well, not all of them, but those that could came to support us. So there has been support. There's also traditional healers that are on campus that have said that they want to come and masiphahlele in this process so that we remain strong. So we aren't alone. We have great support. There are student bodies, well, specifically the SRC and the PYA. They provide us with water because that is all we're taking at the moment.
Feziwe, why a hunger strike? Why this particular type of route of action or type of action? Is it not maybe a bit extreme?
Look, if you know the history of Wits University and its response to protest that is done by students, you might be aware that there was really no other option. Wits University over the years has become extremely violent towards students. It is aggressive towards students. It is highly securitized. Any sign of dissent is met with violence. It's barricaded. So where students would normally gather, it is difficult for them to gather there. As soon as students gather, they are met with letters from legal office and they are suspended. And we don't have the strength or the money to respond legally to Wits University. And so, well, before I forget, even over the years, they've also installed policies that make it difficult even for student leaders. For instance, in house comms, there's been complaints that they are made to sign some contract that states that they will not politicize their residences. They will not teach first years political songs. So it's a really how we describe it has been it's an apartheid-style run institution. Like I told you, the doors in certain areas are closed in postgrad spaces and in other offices that we've attempted to go to. There are no-go areas, essentially. So the system is very violent. So we had to employ strategies to be able to send our message to Wits University, but also to government to say that Black poor students did not choose their position. Education is not a privilege, it is a right. And that something has to be done. It's 10 years after fees must fall, and yet things still remain the same. In fact, in institutions like this, things are worse. And so for us, this was a form of protest that is peaceful. It was a form of protest that would also safeguard us from the violence of the institution. But further to that, it is also what we've been saying, a demonstration of our love to our students. We believe that you cannot be in a revolution if you do not love your people. And for us, it's a demonstration of our love for our country and the students on our campus, particularly Black African poor students.
Just a quick one, Feziwe, we're out of time, and I just want to get this. I mean, what are the numbers of these students that we are actually talking about that are affected by this situation?
Look, the numbers that we see in the media at times seem to be exaggerated by management. So we don't have a clear number because at times management recently took to the media and said 38,000 are registered. And last year we had 45,000 registered students. And so at the moment, we don't have the specific number, but if we're working with that, we know that it's a huge chunk of returning students that haven't registered. But every day we have complaints. I know of 41 that are unregistered, but the number is well beyond 2,000 students that are unregistered for sure. Or even more than that. Like I said, we just haven't had the capacity to actually get proper calculations, but the 38,000 that is publicized by Wits management is not a true reflection of what Wits actually takes in. Returning students are in their homes in KZN, in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga. Some of them are here sleeping in libraries because they're unregistered yet.
All right, Feziwe, we're going to leave it there, unfortunately, due to time constraints. Thank you so much for pushing on with this interview, even in your mental as well as health states. Feziwe, there is Feziwe Ndwayana there. She's a representative of some of the unregistered students at the University of the Witwatersrand. So the other students that have now embarked on a hunger strike. And she says it's the third day. As you can hear, she's losing power. And we do hope that Wits management can please contact us to also just respond to some of the allegations that were leveled against them by the representatives.